Hey folks, this is the Honor Magic. This phone was launched in December 2016 and shown at CES in January 2017, so a little bit over a year ago. And at the time, it was extremely futuristic. It's very hard to come by. It was primarily a Chinese phone for the Chinese market. And some versions might have made it outside of China, but certainly not in the US, not in, I don't even think, Europe. So what's exciting about this is rare, and it's very cool because at the time that this phone was made, it was about as high end as you could be, and it really showed a vision of the future, a vision of where Huawei and Honor were gonna go next, and at least in terms of hardware. And today we have the P20, P20 Pro. Mine should be arriving next week, my review unit, and as we all know, these phones are getting accolades from all the media, and myself included. I played with it. Go check out my hands-on video, and Huawei and Honor have been a force to be reckoned with for a while, but this is one of the devices that took them there, took them where they are today. And I wanted to show this for you because really it's quite unique. So it's pretty small. It's about the same size as an iPhone X, and it doesn't have an ultra widescreen display. This is a 16:9 display, but as you can see, it's hard to tell where it begins and ends, other than the fingerprint reader here, because it is OLED and it is completely integrated into the body of the phone. And it's got the kind of curved edges like a Samsung would. And it's, really quite beautiful. Look at the viewing angles on this display. It's Quad HD 1440p, so super high res display. And you can see obviously the edge here, and you can kind of see the edge there where the fingerprint reader is. But until I kind of held it at the right angle, this just looks like the whole thing is potentially display. And obviously they couldn't do the 18:9 just yet then, but you could tell they were heading there, right? Now the other thing that's really unique about this phone is if you flip it over, it is just glass. There is really no opening except for the flash here. The cameras are under the main rear glass, and there's a dual camera system. And here's the Honor branding. And then it's super thin. There's nothing protruding. As you can see, there's this metal ring here around the edges. And that's basically that. It's really interesting because nobody's really done anything like this, especially where the top is tapered like that before. I mean, the bottom is pretty obvious and reminiscent of other phones, but so anyway, let me unlock this and walk you through some of the features on this phone. So put yourself back in the mindset of late 2016, because kind of that's where our story it begins, really. So Quad HD 5-inch display, AMOLED with curved edges, recessed, and as you can see, there's like a hole and then a piece of glass, and I don't know why they did it that way. You can see the earpiece. There's obviously some sensors under here, but despite the fact me having the display set to 10 minutes, it seems to be going to sleep by itself, and also fading out like this. But anyway, it's pretty damn gorgeous. If you look on the left-hand side, there's nothing. I showed you the bottom. Nothing on the right-hand side except for the volume rocker and the power lock key. And then nothing on top except for the secondary mic. So that's what this phone looks like. Now, what's inside? What are the guts of this phone? And what is it running in terms of software? Well, so it is Kirin 950. We're currently at Kirin 970, so 2 generations back of Huawei's high-end chip. So probably the equivalent of a Snapdragon 821, basically, in terms of performance. 4 gigs of RAM, 64 gigs of storage, but as I said, it's only it's not expandable. There's no micro SD, and it's running Android 6, so it's getting a little long in the tooth here. Let's see, we've got Oreo right now, Nougat before that, so I guess it's it would be Lollipop, which is a little behind the times. And then because it's Huawei and Honor and it meant primarily for the Chinese market, it has a lot, and I mean a lot of customization. It's heavily skinned, sadly, but as you can see, it does have Google Play services. I got all the Google apps installed here. You can see, if I go this way, there's some of the Huawei apps, but clearly I've got all these things installed, including the Play Store right there. So that's pretty awesome. So I spent a few days with this phone now and used it kind of like as one of my review phones. I've got a T-Mobile SIM in there, as you can see. Let me tell you what I think. So it's still very competitive today. I mean, the Android version is a little on the old side, but the rest of it's still pretty competitive. The camera is decent. The display is decent. It's got a 2900 milliamp hour battery, which is not the largest battery you can get. But remember, this is a super thin phone. At the time, probably one of the thinnest you could get. And it has pretty high specs. The front fingerprint reader is super fast, like a lot of the Huawei fingerprint readers. Let me lock it and show you. As you can see, like it went to the home screen because it was so quick. So let me turn it off, and you ready? There you go. FOVO 2.0. The dual rear camera is 12 megapixel, both RGB sensors. FOVO 2.2, which is not the greatest, but the sensor is pretty decent. The pictures it takes are pretty decent. Let me show you some of the photos I've taken. If you go, actually, let's not go in here because this will show you photos from other devices. Let's go into the actual gallery for this phone, which is somewhere in here. There it is, gallery. So, you can see how it does a pretty good job. This is a daytime shot with some HDR. Here's a photo where I didn't even use their portrait mode to get this photo. You can see how it did a very good job at kind of natural bokeh in the background, just from the built-in lens. This is a night shot, and as you can see, it definitely holds its own. Check out the sky. You can see there's a bit of noise as we zoom in, but detail is well preserved. Some noise in the ceiling here, or the sky. I love how I said the ceiling. But generally speaking, pretty damn great. Here's another night shot. Lots of detail. So not a lot of photos, as you can see, but I just want to try it out. And, it definitely lives up to my expectations. Okay, so you just saw something interesting here. This UI is really wonky. So there's no app tray. You can't add an app tray. And here's the worst part. The worst part is they won't let you install a third-party launcher unless you root the phone. So even though I tried to install Google Now Launcher, it wouldn't let me do it. So you kind of have to live with this weird launcher. That's very Chinese. But so it feels a lot like an iPhone. On the bottom here, if you tap on this button, you get kind of like the toggles. They're not at the top like you'd expect. And tapping on this doesn't release the drawer. You actually have to tap on the back button to go back. There's like some kind of like thing you can configure here, like a news feed, very similar to Google Now. And so of course, you got the software keys, all programmable. You can remove this shortcut here, this control center equivalent, but I don't know how you get it otherwise, maybe through some gestures, but I haven't figured it out. And then here's the killer part, the thing that's going to drive you nuts. If you scroll from the top here, you get your notifications, but it's only one of three things. You by default, it'll show your steps if you have no notifications. You have no notifications, and so you actually have to unfurl them to see what's going on. And then you press on this button here, and it shows you a calendar. And you can't configure me anyway. But, the camera's cool. It's got all the features you'd expect from a camera today. Portrait mode, variable aperture, things that we've seen on, phones that came out around that time from Huawei, like the Honor 8. So basically, spec-wise, it's very similar to an Honor 8, actually. But in a much slimmer, much sexier chassis. And I think that's what really the story is here. This is not about the software experience and the fact that it's an old version of Android. This is about super high-end specs in a super slim and super sexy package. As you can see, this one piece of glass back thing is really impressive. And that's it. That's the Honor magic. And as I said, it's hard to come by. The folks at Honor Huawei here, PR in the US, were kind enough to lend it to me for a few days without a box or anything. Factory reset it, and I set myself up on it, and I've been playing with it on and off, and really, you know, it feels so great in hand. It's the perfect size. 5-inch display is a little bit on the small size these days, but somehow it doesn't feel that small, and I'm not really missing the 18:9 aspect ratio. I'm not a big fan of fingerprint reader in the front, but at the same time, there you have it. And by the way, it's not 14 degrees Fahrenheit out there. I'm in San Francisco. This is 14 degrees Celsius. You can't change it. I'm not sure what this says in Chinese, but I'm definitely in San Francisco, California. And yeah, so there you have it. The Honor Magic here on my channel. Not something that's coming up real soon. I've got, let's see, what else? This is interesting. I'm in sort of portrait mode here. I've got some other devices coming. One of the hotly awaited devices of the spring is coming very soon. So stay tuned for an unboxing of that and more stuff here.